Good afternoon, everyone. We're flipping the BEGrowthDriven from the morning to the afternoon. Like we've always kind of said in the last month or two here, we try to adjust to our speakers' busy schedules. We want to accommodate them, but we want to bring everybody some value here. And so, well, frankly, that's what you got to do. So we got Ken Walls with us here today, and we're talking about a very important topic, which, I mean, let's face it, like wars are, fought over this stuff, right? Just effective communication. When there's a breakdown, you're either going to have a war at home, or you're going to have a war in the office, or you're going to have a war in business, or something else. So Ken, with no further ado, introduce, let us know who you are. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm trying to find this real quick so I can share it out, dude.
We'll let you get that. We'll let you get that carried away out of the way first.
Yeah. So, I can't here. I'll have to do it later. So, tell you what, a little about me.
Tell us who Ken Walls is. Who's this Ken Walls guy?
Dude, I'm just out here trying to figure it out like everybody else, man. Just hustling and grinding.
Awesome. Okay. So now you're doing more than that, though. Come on. So
I mean, let me do this. So, best-selling author. He's written Walls of Wisdom. He's a speaker, consultant, tech expert, advisor. He's a CEO, founder of Grow Live Academy, entrepreneur, master connector. I mean, you just go to his website and you can look and you can tell that he really does help people win. Number one, he's got it written on there. But just diving into his content, just even in the last few days. So Joel turned me on to you just even in the last couple of weeks. He's kind of mentioned you around the office before, as I've been getting my feet under me here. And I got to say, like, out of all the things, of course, you're not going to try to brag on yourself as if you get put on the spot necessarily, but you got to put that stuff out there. I'm actually really the authenticity, I think, that came out. One of the most recent ones that I saw, interviews that you did with Dr. Bill Janishek. That was just when you guys got into CBD and just talking about some of the things that are just in the industry and diving into it and his background. I think there's just an authenticity that comes out, which I'm glad we're talking about, just mastering communication, making sure that we get in communication with the people we work with the marketplace, with ourselves, you name it. So that, at least I'll go ahead and introduce you in that way, give you some of the accolades that are there. But truly for me, like, the authenticity just shines through a lot of the stuff that you've been doing, at least in the last week that I've really been trying to prepare for this interview itself. So certainly appreciate you being here and taking the time with us.
I think you needed a mic to just drop.
Dude, that was like John just grabbed the bull by the horns and rolled with it. I love it, man. That was awesome. Holy crap. You need to be working for me, man, not him. I'm just kidding. No, that was great. And so that what John just did is exactly who I am. And I love that. So what John did is he just grabbed the bull by the horns and rolled with it. And I that's who I am. So, I've owned businesses for most of my adult life, and with a couple little stints in between where I tried to get a job and didn't work out. But I go, man. I just go. I don't know how else to put it. I like when in 2013 or 14, I had heard about Grant Cardone, and I signed up for his sales academy for all my salespeople, and then Rob Sislow signed me up to start running ads on the network, and then signed me up to do a show on Grant Cardone's network. And back before I even knew who Rob was, I knew I wanted to become friends with Grant, and I knew that I wanted him to be a client of mine. And I called Todd Straw, who's now the head dude over everything. Todd was my rep. He was brand new when he signed me up, actually. And I called Todd. Hey, Jeff Serrault, I see Jeff there. So I called Todd and I said, dude, Grant needs to be my client. So could you patch me through to his phone? And he goes, no. I can't do that. I go, you have to, bro. And he's like, no, I don't. I'll get fired. I'm not doing that. I said, dude, I spend $1,000 a month with you guys. Are you out of your mind? He goes, bro, no offense, but like Grant could drop $1,000 on the ground and probably not even care to stop and pick it up. Like, like he put me in my place, and I was like, wow. But anyway, so eventually what I did is I put my assistant on an airplane and I flew her to Miami, and she spent a couple of nights there, and she showed up this one Friday morning to meet Grant and Elena in the lobby before they got on the elevators. This is in their old building.
Don't try that today.
Yeah, no.
He's got bodyguards.
Yeah. Well, she was there, and she had these custom bottles of wine that I had made up, and it blew him away. And he called me that day, and so that's where it all started. I actually worked on his website for a couple of years, so that's where it started as far as the 10x and the really going all in on social media and everything for me.
But see, that's all part of communication. And I think a lot of times people think of communication as just this verbal, like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Right. But effective communication goes much further than that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep. Absolutely.
I mean, it goes to the actions you take. It goes to the results you're focused on, the drive, the push, And when you were on Grant's network, that's when I first, found out about you.
Yep.
And started following you.
So, I remember. Yeah.
So what when you work with, what we're trying to do at BEGrowthDriven here is we're trying to help business owners, sales professionals, those that are struggling. This is an important topic for businesses right now more than ever, because the airwaves are so cluttered with all kinds of messages, right?
Yeah.
And so that effective communication is going to be even a more critical component leading in, I think, to like 2021. And so when we talk about these different things, like we've talked about before, like the branding, about mentoring and overcoming challenges, it's because we want business owners and individuals to see that there's ways to overcome this. If you're not good at this, there's ways to get better at it. Yeah. And how
are you talking about at communicating?
Yeah, at communicating. So kind of what we were thinking of as far as this topic of this particular discussion.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like where what you did there, like with Grant, to get his attention.
Yeah.
Was a channel of communication.
Absolutely. And that's something I've done with more than just Grant. I mean, with a lot of different people. John Hamlin, I built John's website, who's one of Grant's best friends, and I could not close him. I couldn't get in. I mean, I got a hold of him, but and so I'm like, how can I? So I reached out to Elena, sent her a text message, and said, hey, I know John loves you. Why don't you call him and see if you can get him to do business with me. Let me rebuild his website. And 15 minutes later, she said, done. Just reach out to him in 30 days. And so then, here's another example in the whole. So John, like I waited 2 weeks, and John reached out to me, and he says in a message on Facebook Messenger, he says, I can't believe you had Mrs. Cardone call me and close me down, and you didn't get on an airplane that day and come down here and ink the deal and get a check. And I said, well, that's weird, because actually tomorrow morning I'm going to be in Daytona Beach. And he's like, oh, cool. Stop by around 9:00. And I go, I'll do it. I had no intention of being in Daytona Beach tomorrow morning. I was sitting in Ohio, and it was cold, and Daytona Beach sounded great. So I booked a flight literally that moment, flew into Fort Lauderdale thinking it was right next to Daytona Beach. It's not. It's right next to Miami. It's 4.5 hours from Daytona Beach, as a matter of fact. So I had to rent a car. I flew in got in at 10 o'clock that night, rented a car, drove 4.5 hours, 5 hours, because I had to stop a couple of times. and got a hotel room at 3:00 in the morning, was up and at it the next morning on just a few hours sleep to go, shut down the deal with John Hamlin. So, when it comes to communication, you've got to be willing to do whatever it takes to communicate. Had I told John, you know what, my schedule's packed, I'm not gonna, I'll have to, can we set up for next week? Or he would have been like, nah, dude, you know what? That's not 10X to me. That's not really going after something. And, I showed him, I'll book a flight and be down there in the morning. I'll be there in the morning. And I was.
Right.
So,
well,
yeah,
that's what you got to do. You got to act on it.
You got to go. People are living in fear, man. I think that, and I don't think it's, I talked about this today on my show. I interviewed somebody. I said, I don't think that, the word laziness came up. And I said, I don't think that people are necessarily lazy. I think that somebody sold them on giving up on their own dreams. And as a result, they have nothing to dream about. They're not writing goals because they don't have any goals. They're not writing down, gratitude statements. What the heck do they have to be grateful for? They're not lazy. They don't have a dream. They have no goals, nothing.
Do you think it's the, some people say they got goals. What do you think about that? Do you think it's like the wrong goals? Think they go empty?
I mean, I think, especially if you have never had them, I think any goal is a good goal. If you've never had a goal, like, hey, I'm setting goals to get up and brush my teeth tomorrow morning. Well, that's a start.
Right.
If you're not used to doing that, like, I'm setting goals to start doing push-ups right away, or I'm going to, do something to better my life, to better my business, my family, whatever it is. But, setting those goals. And so, it really comes down to, when you talk about communication, the breakdown, I think, for most organizations, most companies, and I coach a lot of business owners, I can tell you where the breakdown begins with communication.
Right.
It's self-talk. It's the self-communication. It's the self-doubt. It's the worrying that I'm not good enough. It's all of the insecurities that most of us business owners have. We have them. That's why we're business owners. We're too insecure to work for somebody else. So, like, but like, we have these insecurities, and we're having this negative self-talk all the time, and that's where I think communication starts breaking down.
Right. As far as they just, well, they're trying to make that, they're trying to justify along as they go. I think a lot of times too, right? They try to say, well, it's okay. I'm just gonna, I'm justified in feeling this way, or I'm justified in feeling this way, or doing this thing, this way, or whatever. Or somebody would say like, hey, what you did for John Hamlin is excessive. Man, that's pushy, right?
Okay.
That's that's what some people may say or may feel that way.
Sure. And you know what I'd say? I agree with you. I knew it was pushy before you did.
There you go. Right.
I mean, I agree. It's pushy, but at the end of the day, I got his business and you didn't.
Right.
So
exactly. There was something on one of the Cardone calls this morning that I was on. We were on there with Alex Grant, and he made the stress comment. He's like, "Would you rather be right, or would you rather make the sale?"
Right.
Yeah. So I think sometimes, hey Michael, how you doing, man? Thanks for jumping on,
dude. Where is this live streaming? I need to share it out.
Yeah, you bet.
Here, I think I just found it.
Got it.
There it is. Sorry, I got it now. I got it.
But I think a lot of business owners, right? They, especially some small business owners, they're like, "Well, I'm supposed to be the guy that has all the answers."
Yep.
And they don't realize that, hey, you know what? It's okay if you don't have the answers. In fact, the quicker you admit you don't have them, you can start the search for them.
Right. I agree. I think that the problem with most business owners is not even necessarily that they don't have the answers. We know if we have the answers or not.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot. This is one of the areas where when I talk about Grant Cardone, and I have people that are like, why are you such a Grant Cardone fanboy? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. He changed my life, But, I remember when Grant first said, write your goals twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. I was like, dude, what? Like I don't even write my goals once a year. Why would I write them twice a day? Are you out of your freaking mind? Right. And so when he said, look, most people don't write their goals even once a year. And if they do, they'll write them on January 2nd or whatever, after they get over their hangover, they'll write them out. Then they fold that piece of paper up, stick it in a drawer, and they may check it next year to see if they hit anything. And he goes, at least they wrote them once. But listen, if I write my goals every day, 2 times a day, 365 days a year, that means at the end of the year, I've written my goals 730 times, and you might have written yours once. Who do you think has a better shot at attaining their goals? 100%. It's literally the most logical statement I think I've ever heard him say. I was like, well, that makes sense. Okay. I'm down with that. I get it now. Okay. So that's the problem, man. People don't have goals. They don't have goals. I don't know how to set goals. How about you get a piece of paper out and just start writing things you'd like to have?
What's big? What scares the crap out of you, right?
Right. Well, you don't even have to go that far if you're just starting out, right? Just
no, exactly.
What are some things you'd like to have? A house on the ocean, a jet, a helicopter, 5,000 employees where I'm feeding their families. I'd like to give $1 million a year to my church. I'd like to, what is it that you want? What are the goals that you have? And it really, honestly, it's what Zig Ziglar says. If you don't write goals, well, then you just are a wandering generality. And so for all of those years of my life prior to hearing this whole goal setting dissertation from Grant Cardone, even though I had made millions of dollars, I really hadn't achieved anything because I never wrote anything down. I never felt like I accomplished anything. I never wrote down what it was I was going to accomplish. So anytime I achieved anything cool, it was just like, wow, I just achieved something cool, instead of, wow, I just hit a freaking milestone goal that I had set.
Makes sense. Well, that's if you're gonna be, for example, a business owner, and you can't write your own goals and communicate with yourself,
right?
Why are you surprised if it's not working so well with your team?
Right.
Is how, to connect it back in. I know goals are a big thing for me. When I got turned on to Grant stuff, it was like end of 2014. And, I think the first book I read was like Sell or Be Sold, and then the 10X rule. And I'm like, then I started on that goal stuff, right? I'm like, where I was at, where could I go?
Right.
Cause I was kind of raised in the don't reach for much, reach for what you need, be quiet, don't make too much noise. Right. Yeah. And all those things. And there's balance to all that. There's balance, right? But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, hey, you're trying to grow a business. You're going to have to get attention. You're going to have to do, you want to get married. You want to find that special one. You're going to have to get their attention somehow, right?
Yep. You
want to keep that one or keep that business. You're going to have to learn how to communicate.
Yep.
And goals are just that critical component. I love it because I got drawers full of goal books, of these nice 10X goal books that Grant sells.
Yep. And
I love looking back because I can look back at the years. And I'm like, man, that's just a sad small goal, but at the time it was a mountain for me.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And for me, that's like the affirmation of how powerful goals are.
Yep.
Because you get to see that graph of where you've come from and where you're going.
Right.
And that's all part of where this communication starts, because then you can reaffirm those things for yourself. I would imagine you probably found the same thing.
Yep. Well, I grow over and over every year, and my goals are always going up now. And again, I go back to I didn't know what I didn't know. So, if you don't know what you don't know, you can't beat yourself up for
Right.
not doing something you didn't even really know existed or how to do it. I can remember, back years ago, I thought, well, people set goals. Wow, that seems like a really honorable thing to do. Like, makes sense. Like, Steve Jobs probably had goals, and I can remember my brother-in-law, who's done incredibly well in real estate and aircraft stuff, and but I can remember him talking about setting goals, and I'm like, cool, yeah, I need to do that, man. but I didn't know how to do it. And so when you don't know how to do something, the fear of doing it kicks in.
Right.
And so I never did it. Why confront that, man? I don't know how to do it. I'm not going to confront that. But I mean, Grant made it seem like it's simple. And I'm like, and it really is.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, man. And there's goals and then there's targets, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So targets are also important because I consider those little micro goals. If my goal is to do, $10 million this year, well, I need to know what the micro target is every day to get me and my company to that level.
Right.
But most people, again, have no goal, so they have no micro target. Their micro target is to make sure they hit the toilet in the morning when they're taking a wig. So, it's like,
Right.
no, dude, that's not a goal. That's going to the bathroom.
Right.
But like, if you set you learn how to set these micro targets every day of, okay, today I'm going to make 150 phone calls. I'm going to close 5 new deals, and those 5 new deals are going to be, $20,000 or whatever it is. Right. But you've got to have these micro targets. You've got to have the targets. Like if I say to you, John, what's your target for today? You should be able to say it's this, it's bam, it's that. I'm going to hit these targets. These are my 5 top targets, and this is what I'm going after. But it never made sense to me before. I never thought about, well, I guess I could set a goal that I own a $20 million home on the ocean. And it never occurred to me that was a reality that could happen, Anyway.
I guess, one of the things that's been going in the back of my mind as I've been listening to this conversation has been, your books about kind of your personal breakthrough and then how it translates for other people. And there's an element, there's something that Grant said, like if you're going to be solely focused on you, there certainly is an element, it seems, that you have to get your mind right. There is an element that you do have to focus, but what's that transition to where, if you're focused on, small things, you got big drama, but if you're focused on the bigger picture, you got everything else seems like just a lot smaller drama you got to deal with day to day. So what's that? If the first step for anybody is really to set their goals and to get their targets moving in the direction and be focused and trying to hold themselves accountable to that, what's that next step that they need to take it to the next level? And when do they transition to really trying to gain that bigger picture? And I guess is setting those goals part of setting that bigger picture while holding yourself accountable to that?
Man, that's a great question. So I think the next step is you got, most people, again, John, and Joel, it's like this. Most people's lives are on autopilot, and meaning they get up in the morning and everything they do today is going to be 99.9% similar to what they did yesterday. There might be oh, I had to take a side road on the way to the office today because there was a construction or something. And
right.
that may be the biggest challenge of their entire day that's different. And it's because we're all seeking survival and comfort. So doing something that's outside of our norm is unbelievably not cool to us. Like I literally was I need a haircut if you can't tell. So I was trying to set up a thing with my gal today or for tomorrow. And she's like, oh, I'm not there tomorrow. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm not used to being turned down for this. And she's like, can you come in at 6 p.m. tonight? And I'm like, I don't do 6 p.m. haircuts. What? Like, it just, and I remember consciously thinking to myself, like, my God, this is throwing off everything for me. And it's just getting a dang haircut. That's it. But it's so far out of what I would normally do that my brain can't process it. But so I think that the first micro step is you got to do something that's out of your normal everyday operating procedures. You've got to do something that may be, at noon, at lunchtime. Maybe you don't take lunch at noon. Maybe you take lunch at 10:30. Maybe you take lunch at 1:30. You do something completely different. Instead of going to Chipotle for lunch, maybe pack your lunch today and go for a walk and eat your lunch while you're walking, or do something different and start taking those tiny little micro steps. I have 18 years of sobriety. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and I think you guys probably know that. And I can remember after losing millions of dollars, losing everything, and at 34 years old, I went to a meeting, one of these 12-step meetings, and I go in and I sit down, and there I look. Obviously, I'm in the parking lot looking around at I'm in a really affluent area, and I'm like, holy crap, these people all have Jaguars and Mercedes, and there's a Bentley convertible and all that, and I'm like, these people are here for the AA meeting, or is this like a freaking exotic car show? What are we doing here? And I couldn't believe it. And I remember sitting down there and I'm thinking, all right, who's driving the Bentley? I'm looking around this room, and I'm there for the wrong reasons. But yet I saw people that were hitting these high levels in life, and they were sober, and they were living their life for God, and they were living their life to help other people. And the reason I was there was I wanted to, as soon as I saw those cars, I was like, well, I got to figure out how to get rich like these people. And I gotta, thank you, Jessica. That's so nice. Thank you. So, but there was a shift where I realized finally that it was going to happen incrementally, no matter how bad I wanted it right now. Like, I want a Gulfstream 550 right now. The only challenge with that is I don't have the money to pay 2 pilots and the $50 million it would take to buy the Gulfstream 550. So, I don't have those things yet. But I say yet because I know that it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. I know it's coming. I don't know when. I don't know how. All I know is I have the goal, and I work my freaking rear end off every single day of my life to inch closer to that goal every day. That's for me, that's it. You got to inch closer. You got to do whatever it takes, and you got to realize that it's every single day. It may be a communication thing. It may be a goal setting thing. It may be a whatever, but you've got to realize it's going to be inches, not miles a day. Some days you'll hit it far, but not very often.
I think along those lines, it's like some people don't give their brain a complicated enough problem to try to solve, right? Like what you mentioned earlier is people kind of are living in this autopilot, right? Like, don't give me a harder problem to solve, man. Why are you doing that to me? I thought I thought enough in school, right?
Right.
And I'm a big believer that, hey, you got to start asking the right questions, because our brains were designed to solve problems.
Yep.
And they're hungry to solve problems. And that's where like the goals come in, because if you're setting a big enough goal, you hammer that out day and night, eventually your brain's like, okay, I'm getting tired of writing this. How do I solve it?
Yeah.
And
true.
I've had those light bulb moments where you're like, oh, that's how I'm going to do that one.
Yeah.
I got this. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, like that one's done, another goal's hammered. And then you're like, man, I aimed too low. I need to aim higher now.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I know one of the things that I remember hearing, so I did a little bit of like mental health counseling for a partial of a degree while I was in the military, just because we had to get something of a master's somewhere at the education level that I was at in my military career. And I remember one of the things they talked about, that small incremental little change. And the one thing that I think Grant understands, and a lot of people that are in this ecosystem, and it's become more and more clear to me, is you really do have to set that gigantic goal that's out there that just you walk over glass, you'll walk through fire, you'll do anything you got to do to get there. But then when you set that little target, it might be, if you're in a severe place of depression, I know guys that have PTSD and other stuff that they have to work through. Like, hey, the thing that stretches me today is getting out of bed and taking a shower today. I'm going to do that for a week.
Yeah.
Now the next step is beyond that. I need to get out and start walking every day or something like that. Like, really is those little things, but then you can go back. And I think that's why it's so important to keep going back to that big goal that you have. But when you set your targets, it still needs to be something that's going to stretch you overall. And I think that's one of the things that's really clicked here in the last just few months that I've come on board here at the First Direct for me. And it's been hard. I won't lie about that, Joel.
Yeah.
It's been hard.
Yeah.
But I'm pumped to be here. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about what your thoughts are on that as far as connecting those dots. Cause I'm keep looking back through your bio and overcoming, trauma, loss, addiction. And thanks for sharing, your background. And I love the fact that your whole mission is out there to help other people do the exact same thing and then achieve at even further levels than that too.
Yeah. So, again, back to something Grant said years ago, and that is money follows attention. If you want more money, you got to get more attention. And so I remember hearing that and I thought, what the heck's that mean? Like I have to make more. I don't have time to make more phone calls a day. How do you squeeze in more phone calls? Like, how do you, and I'm thinking all this stuff. And then I noticed how often Grant was going live all the time on Periscope back then. It was the only thing available. And that's when I went, oh, duh. I need to get an iPhone, because at the time all I had was an Android. So you couldn't use Periscope on Androids back then. So I went, okay, that's the ticket. Get an iPhone and go live. So I got an iPhone and I went live, and I say this all the time, I was nervous as a hooker in church. Joel's like, darn it, we're live. I can't cut that out. but I was terrified, and I to this day don't know why I was scared, but I was scared. And so I ended up I ended up going live, and now I've gone live well over 2,500 times. And I'm constantly thinking, okay, here's some content I could deliver and people would grasp, and they would get a hold of it and they'd understand it, or it would excite them, or they would get motivated to live a better life. And because that's what I live for. And so I'll just get on and this is what I'm going to talk about. And I hit go live, and I just do a live stream, and I'll do that sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a day. So, and John, I apologize. I'm kind of rambling because I don't really understand. What was your question? Because I kind of forgot. You said something about
you're good.
Connecting dots.
Yeah, I mean, the ability, I mean, you've kind of touched on it before, but I guess, for anybody that's really kind of in the pit of despair for where they're at, I mean, they're trying to find some way to break through it. And you've mentioned they're trying to get around their self-talk. I mean, what is the essential part or an essential habit that somebody like that, and I mean, they might be performing at high levels. What did they need to do in order to get into effective communication with themselves? What is that piece?
Start writing. Get a piece of paper and start writing. And I mean, write and write and write and write. Here's the way I've always seen it. I've never, this says that the live stream ended. That's weird.
No, it should still be good.
Yeah, that's weird. It just said on my phone. Anyway,
no, it's still going.
If you're, let's say that, the average, and I used to teach this in sales training years ago, and I forget the exact numbers for this statistic, but, let's say that the average 18-year-old, it used to be the average 18-year-old had heard the word no like 360,000 times by the time they're 18. And as opposed to the word yes like 15,000 times. So it's dramatically different. So we're programmed to receive a negative response on so many levels of communication, right? And so if that's the programming that we have, but it's not the programming that we want to operate with, we have to change the operating system and remove the virus. And I'm speaking computer talk stuff, right? Yeah. So how do you do that? You going to go have brain surgery? Are you, I mean, God's willing to do a lot for us, but he's not going to do everything. He gave us free will for a reason, right? So we go, okay, how do I reprogram these neurotransmitters that are firing all these all this negativity? Yep. The only way I found that was effective for me is to start writing, man. And I mean, write like a maniac, writing and writing and writing and writing until I can't write anymore. And I write positive affirmations. One of my favorite people in the world is Bob Proctor, and a client of mine, Billy Merritt. He's brilliant. Billy is brilliant. Dude went from 4 years ago living in a trailer, couldn't pay his bills, like literally couldn't pay his bills, and having stuff cut off and getting cut off notices and all this stuff, to now he does tens of millions of dollars, and he's doing great. And he has his own airplane now and pilot and all of that. And so Billy was telling me, he goes, man, I'll tell you, you want to start reprogramming yourself? Bob Proctor gave me this one thing, and I used it, man. And this is what he said: I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities from multiple sources on a continuous basis. He said, you say that 30 or 40,000 times, I promise you, if you say that out loud 30 or 40,000 times, you will change your life. Your brain won't know how to do anything except for attract money from multiple sources on a continuous basis in massive and increasing quantities. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, man. So I started doing that, and I still do it every day. I'm doing, and it's crazy. It just is pouring in all the time. It works. But you've got to have different conversations with yourself. You got to start writing this stuff out. What are you grateful for? Well, I'm not grateful. My electric was shut off, and we're all freezing and don't have no food. And I'm like, bro, you got a breath? You breathing? You blinking? Guess what? You have something you can find to be grateful for. Okay, something. You can get some top ramen. If you can't even get some top ramen, hit me up. I'll send you some top ramen. But like, you've got to be, well, I don't want to have, here's the problem, the real problem. I used to eat a ribeye steak every night, and now you expect me to eat top ramen? I don't expect you to do anything, dude. Do whatever you want. If you can go get a ribeye steak and still, then go for it, man. But if you are struggling and your electric's turned off, or you can't pay your bills, then you got to figure out what's going on in here. And Grant always says this too, and I agree 1,000%. He says, he always says, get your money right? Get your money right. But he says, if you want to get your money right, you first have to get your mind right. If you get your mind right, everything else will fall into place. Right.
I guess one of the last questions that I'll have for this episode that we got is, taking it from, and I appreciate you talking about the internal stuff. And I think that's one of the things, especially after this year, has been desperately needed. But if you have business owners that are out there, and even maybe, top level members of those organizations, what's like the number one thing that they need to be in effective communication in order to grow in 2021 that you're seeing?
What is say that? I'm sorry.
What's the number one thing that a business needs to be in communication with the market about to grow in 2021?
Who they are and what they do. Joel and I have had conversations in the past, and I know that you guys are in the data business, and I'm like, dude, data is not sexy at all. It sucks. In fact,
I agree.
I hate data. And he's like, I think I'm like, well, guess what? Your market doesn't care what you think. they don't care.
100%. I'm with
you. Your customers want you to know what they think. right?
Right.
So the number one piece of advice is you got to get clear with your message, and you got to get your message out there. And I have my course where I teach people how to develop a show like this, and how to podcast, and how to do all kinds of cool stuff. And I say in this course, go live every day, go live multiple times a day, find the time, make the time. Don't make excuses, make time. And that's something else that Grant talks about is we manufacture our own time. Right. We do. Right. And I'll give you a perfect example. Take anybody in the world with the busiest, most packed calendar you've ever seen. Let's say Joel, let's say that you have an appointment with Grant Cardone in 20 minutes. And then after that, you're meeting with Mark Cuban. And then after that, you're meeting with President Trump. And then I call you and I go, hey, Joel, I need you to come over here, man, in about an hour and a half. And your answer is going to be, dude, I have the 3 most important meetings of my entire life today. I'm going to have to pass on that. Joel, listen, I really need you to come over here, man. I got something for you. Ken, I just can't do it, man. Grant Cardone, President Trump. I have some important meetings, but Joel, I have the winning lottery ticket. It's worth $170 million for you. See, now screw Grant Cardone and President Trump. I'm on the way, right? So it's not a matter of you don't have time. It's you're not making time. Your priorities are messed up. So once you get your priorities right and you understand as a business owner or a salesperson, your number one priority in life is to generate sales and revenue, period. Figure out how to get your message out there to a lot more people. That's what I would say.
That's awesome.
Bingo.
Yeah, that's a great analogy too. I love that.
Yeah, you'd make time to come get that lottery.
Yeah, that's right.
I know you would.
Right.
But and that's the other thing is Grant jumped on my live stream, I don't know, a month and a half or so ago one night. It was late. He was they were in California on vacation. He had just finished filming Undercover Billionaire, and it was a lot of fun. It's the video's up on YouTube, but anyway, so Grant was on, and I asked him a similar question. What do you think people should be doing right now and he said, man, what you're doing right here, right now, that's what people need to learn how to do. They need to learn how to do what you're doing right here, this live streaming stuff and getting out on social media and doing all this stuff. And Grant teaches that as well, but he said that this is what people need to be learning how to do.
He's like, you got one of these.
Attention. Do what?
He said he talks about how you got one of these. That's all you need.
That's it. The iPhone 12.
You don't. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Invest in your tools, right? Even if you don't have it, start live. You
got to do something, man. You got to, you got to get attention. You got to get attention. Like it blows me away. And real quick, Joel.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I wrote Walls of Wisdom, Turning Pain into Profit. Number one best-selling book on Amazon. You know why? I live streamed for 6.5 hours selling the whole time, convincing people to buy my book. Thousands and thousands of people came on my live stream that night. And I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books sold that night, but not everybody that was on the live stream bought, because that's the law of averages. That's the way that the numbers work. But since then, did you know that I just wrote a book with number one New York Times bestselling author Jeffrey Gitomer? He's written 18 books, 4 of them New York Times bestsellers, and he wrote this book right here and I taught him how to do live streaming. And he called me and said he's doing a book on called Go Live. He said, and I'd like you to write one of the opening chapters of the book.
Awesome. I got a whole bookshelf that's dedicated to Gitomer.
Yeah. It's phenomenal to me that I was invited to write a chapter with a New York Times bestselling author. the dude wrote the Little Red Book of Selling. It's the #1 best-selling sales book ever on planet Earth. You know, I have I can't tell you everything, but I got a call from Mark Victor Hansen, who's the #1 best-selling author in the world. He wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul with Jack Canfield. And Mark Victor Hansen's now a very, very dear friend of mine, him and his wife. And he calls me with a special favor thing 2 Sundays ago. And now I'm involved in this other thing with Mark and some other people that are super high level people in the government. And anyway, it's just some crazy stuff that's happening. And all because I communicate. I over communicate all the time.
There you go. That's what I was going to say. I was going to ask you, it's a very rhetorical question, but it's like those things would not have come into place if it hadn't been for just reaching out and communicating or going out of your comfort zone. Most people are unwilling to do that. They're afraid to stretch out, and then they complain about not getting the results. You know, and so it's what's more painful to you, your current situation or fixing it?
I mean, again, people don't typically change anything until the pains become great enough. You know, that's when they change. And I'm not judging. I've been there a million times. You know, I didn't quit drinking until I was almost dead from it. You know, and then I'm like, okay, you know, maybe this living thing's actually not a bad idea. So
should check it out, right?
Yeah. So
well, fantastic. Ken, I appreciate your time, man. You've given us a good, you know, it's almost an hour of your time today, and I appreciate it. So,
dude, I'm honored to be on here with you, man. You know, you and I go way back, Joel.
Definitely.
Yeah, years.
Yes, most definitely.
I bought your book Walls of Wisdom while we were on here, so that'll be on my Christmas reading list. So I'll be
awesome, dude. Thank you for that.
I'm pumped for that.
And if you live in the US, you can text the word book to 33777 and you can download my book for free, the ebook PDF version.
Nice, right on.
Yeah, awesome. So book to 33777. And hey, I also have, you know, may I promote my other 100%.
Stuff? Hey, real quick, 33777, right?
Book BOOK to 33777. Yep. And so this right, oh, look at that. So this right here, the chapter I have in here, I wrote this ebook that I give away for free. The ebook is called 100 Live Stream Secrets and Ideas. And you can go to 100livestreamsecrets.com and you can download the ebook for free. It was good enough that Gedimer asked for me to include it in his new book. So my ebook is really, really filled with a lot. You know, one of the biggest things people say, you know, before they get into my academy, which is the Grow Live Academy, is how do you come up with so many ideas to live stream about? Like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I just, you know, maybe it's current events or maybe something I can teach on or that I can help somebody with. And I just go live and talk about it. And then I wait for the audience to respond and talk to them. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to write an ebook. And I'm going to just give it away. I'm going to give it away to people to download this for free. You then are going to be offered an opportunity to buy my mini course for $47 or you can get into the main course where I do weekly coaching calls on Thursday evenings. Joel, you're part of the main course, right?
I am.
The Grow Live Academy, although I haven't seen you on a coaching call yet. I'm sure that'll change.
That'll change. That'll change.
Right. Did I just get called out on my show?
I did. No, that's good. That's all good. No, I dude, man, I am locked into so many things. It is like, I'm making excuses. I'm a little whiner now. So, but no, I definitely, you know, it's one of those things you got to put yourself into that uncomfort zone. I think too. Some people are like, man, that's just, I feel stressed because of that, or I feel, man, you're making me, get over it.
I
The
got
longer you dwell there, you ain't gonna fix anything.
I have, now that I dropped my excuses and all my BS and all my whininess and everything else, back in 2017, I published my first book, Walls of Wisdom, Turning Pain into Profit. That was 2017. I then I've written a couple of different ebooks, but the 100 live stream secrets ebook is great. So I'm now a contributing author in this book with Jeffrey Gitomer. I also wrote another book with all of these unbelievable authors: Reverend Ariel Patricia, Kathleen O'Keefe Cannabis, Dr. Bernie Siegel, who's a legend. He's written 20 books. Dr. Reverend Temple Hayes, Ken Walls is on there. I wrote a story in this book, Crappy to Happy. I've got another book coming out where I wrote a chapter with Dr. Reverend Temple Hayes. And here's the thing, in her new book coming out. And here's the thing. I used to have all these excuses. I used to say, I don't have time. I used to say, I can't. In my mind, I would say I can't, or I'm afraid, or what if nobody buys the book or reads it or thinks I'm dumb or leaves me bad reviews or blah, 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 blah. And it's like, who cares? I'm not living in that fear anymore, man. Grant said to me one time, when you're going through hell, stomp on the gas. Man, stomp on the gas in life.
Love that.
Well, I think it's this touches on like a lot of the companies that have survived. You could say not only survived, but they've prospered in 2020. Okay, amidst everything, it's those ones that are putting into practice what you're talking about: the communication, the goals, those types of things. It's those individuals and companies. They're going to thrive in 2021.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think the market's just been seeded now for, great amounts of opportunity.
I agree.
In a lot of respect. It doesn't matter what's all going on. It doesn't matter what the news says. In fact, it's you look at it and it's creating opportunity in a lot of respects.
Yep.
Because what a lot of people are doing, they're just sitting there freezing. Those people that are, there's ways to change situations. Whatever situation you're in, there's a way to change it. So hook up with Ken, text book to 33777, as well as check out his 100 livestreamsecrets.com.
That's the ebook. That's free to download too.
Perfect. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get a free book.
That's right. That's right.
And you might learn one thing. If you could walk away with one thing that changed your 2021, would you do it? That's what it really kind of comes down to, I think, there. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ken, I appreciate, again, you jumping on. We've got a great amount of new, good content. This stitches in really well to a lot of the things, and at the end of this month, we're looking back at some of these same things that have been pivotable, a pivot point for a lot of businesses. And I guarantee it's that same tenacity that you've talked about.
Yeah.
When we visited with Russ Yeager, that was some of the things that he talked about as far as he just didn't stop.
That's it.
He didn't freeze. He doubled down in his business. He's like, I spent more in marketing.
Yep. I mean, you got to do whatever it takes. And the crazy part is most people won't until it's the only option left.
Right. No, exactly. And then it's almost too late in some cases.
It can be. It can be. And I said to Grant that night, he was on my live stream a couple months ago. I said, he's like, man, it's hard to start over when you're older. I said, I know, I'm sure it is. He goes, because, oh man, I mean, I'm talking about starting with nothing. I go, yeah, I get it, dude. And he goes, I go, but you know what? It's never too late. If you're starting over, it's never too late. And he goes, I don't know, man. Maybe it is. Maybe it is too late for some people. It really struck me like, wow. When we say it's never too late, like, go get them. Howdy doody time. It's like, no, man, it might be too late. You better get a move on.
Right. I think there's truth in both statements.
Mm-hmm.
There is, but like you know that I think people use this. See, I don't think the human ego understands death. Like the human ego just thinks it's going to live on forever, and you know it's always going to be here. But people are dying every day, man. That woke up this morning thinking, "Man, this is going to be the best day of my life," and bam, that was it. Lights out, and you're out of here. And so it might be too late. You better get moving. You better get busy now.
Make the best of
screwing
every
around.
moment.
Yep.
So yeah.
No, you got to not say, hey, that's going to be my goal list. That's my New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's for New Year's. Okay. And we're not there yet. You got to, it's, business is slowing down. I'm going to do this. We've talked about that internally. Like even now it's like, hey, there's, I think John, we talked about it, like there's only one day we're closed, that's Christmas Day. Right. Because definitely, hey, let's face it, people are going to be with families. But even then, you call us, we're here to do business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So it's the mindset.
Good.
And a lot of people think of, stuff like that as like, hey, you're just crossing some boundaries. That's not, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Who said that? It's like, who said I can't do that?
Yeah.
Is it you? Are you, and this is stuff that Grant says too. It's like, it's kind of like, people look at that and it's like, well, that's just, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Who's telling you that?
Those people gave up on their dreams.
Right. Well, and it doesn't mean you don't love them. I always tell people too, they could be family members, they could be significant others, etc. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It's just where you're thinking of things and where you're maybe to that point, they're not there yet. You hope they get there.
Yep.
But you do think of some people, they are so cemented in their ways, and only people can pull themselves out of their situations. You can't pull them out of there.
Sometimes it's cognitive dissonance and where they're trapped and they can't get out. Right. They believe something so much that there's no convincing them otherwise. And that's where I'm like, you know what? One of my favorite quotes is, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. In fact, that's in the first little part of my book, I think, in the opening. But like, I'm not like, I'm going to, hey, look, dude, the sky's blue. And you're like, no, it's not. It's purple. No, dude, look, it's blue. No, it's not. It's purple. Okay, dude, have a nice day. Bye-bye. I agree with you, man. You're right. It's purple. Now have a nice day. Bye-bye. Like, whack job. I can't help you. Like, I'm not going to try to convince you that the sky is freaking blue when every other person on the planet sees it and it's blue and you think it's purple. Okay. So anyway. Yeah.
At the end of the day, get your communication straight.
That's right.
Pull up your britches. Get out there. Go live. Sign up get Ken's ebook. Sign up for his academy. Make 2021 the best year ever.
Make it the best year ever. I agree, dude.
And make tomorrow the best day ever. And make today, frankly, the best day ever. Yeah. So awesome. Ken, I appreciate you, man.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank Ken Walls. He's got, he has some pretty cool cats on his live streams that he does. I always like catching the Ken and Glenn show. Yeah.
Glenn's he's an amazing human.
He's a rock star. He is like this wise old.
He is, man.
He reminds me of like a Morgan Freeman.
He is, and well, they're both in the same business too, right?
Right.
So Glenn is, and people that don't know who he is, Google him, Glenn Morshower. He's been an actor for 45 years. You've seen him. You'll go, oh, that guy. I mean, because that's who he is. He's just one of the most famous character actors in the world. And he's my best friend in the world. And we love hanging out and doing live streams and laughing and sometimes being a little off color and vulgar, but we have fun with it. We just have fun and we help people. That's what it's about for us, man. Just helping other people get better.
I think the other night it was making one face out of both of yours.
Yeah. Crazy.
So, but let's face it, we got to have a little bit of fun. And
We
you have
do.
platforms like that, and you're connecting with people, and that's still all connects back into this whole theme of connected, of effective communication. So
it is. So
reach out there and touch some people. Man, I appreciate it again. Hey, everyone, don't miss us next week. We're going to have on John West on December 22nd. John West, this guy is the king of kale. He runs a kale operation out of Michigan, and believe it or not, for all of you health food nuts, he is one of the connected guys in that vein. But a lot of other things. He is very in depth on Cardone Ventures as well. So we kind of have a similarity here as far as a lot of our crowd here is coming from the Cardone network. Well, let's face it, a majority of that crowd's hustling, and they're doing what's necessary. So catch us all next week. We appreciate everyone jumping on. Ken, thank you again for jumping on.
Dude, thank you for I really genuinely appreciate it. Thank you both for being on here and interviewing me. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
It was good to get to know you.